So currently there are 6 different versions of the New Balance 990 model. There's the V1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But I wanted to go ahead and cover some of the differences between all of these 6 models. They actually have about 18 models in the 99X series across the board. In this video, I'm only going to be focusing on the 990s. But if you guys want another video covering the rest of the models, leave a comment in the comment section, drop a like on the video, and I will do so. Also, if you guys want to shop the current selection on New Balance's website of the 990 sneakers they have available, please use the links in the description. It does give me a little bit of a kickback, and it lets New Balance know that you guys mess with the channel. Greatly appreciate it when you guys do that. So we'll start off with the humble beginnings of 1982. The New Balance 990 released for $100, and this is the very first model in all of the 99X lineage. Again, the price point was $100 in 1982. If you include inflation, that's about $311 in today's day and age, which is kind of crazy. It really shouldn't have worked out for New Balance, but for some reason it did, and it became a cornerstone of New Balance. As most companies were trying to manufacture overseas, New Balance was made in the USA, which is something that definitely stood out. So even though the price was elevated, so was the premium materials and the craftsmanship, which laid the foundation for New Balance with the 990 V1. Now the version of the 990 V1 that I have is a Tenny Sandtest one. I can't really speak to the originals since I don't have an original one. I'm assuming that they look somewhat similar to the retro pair, but if I'm wrong, leave a comment in the comment section. There's a lot of suede in about 3 different panels on the upper, including the toe box, the mid panel, and then also the heel. There's a plastic heel clip on the back, and then also there is mesh on the toe box, some of the collar area, and the tongue. The tongue is very thin as well. And you do have some sewn on New Balance logos on each side of the shoe. The midsole is pretty plain. They don't have any crazy proprietary foam from what I could tell in the midsole, and then you do have a pretty thick rubber outsole. As for sizing of the 990 V1, I would go true to size or half size down. Depends on what you like on your feet. I like a little bit more wiggle room in my toe box area. Some people might find it having too much wiggle room, so true to size or half size down. If you have a difference in opinion, of course, leave a comment in the comment section. After the release of the 990 V1, they released a 995, a 996, a 997, a 998, and a 999, but in 1989, 15 years later, they actually released the 990 V2. So lots of things changed from the original 990 to the 990 V2, specifically the midsole, which featured ABZORB for shock absorbing, and with the ABZORB foam running the entire length of the ENCAP sole, it actually ends up popping out the heel a little bit in kind of a sealed bubble. So obviously with 15 years in between, there's a ton of different changes from the first version to the more modernized 990 V2. The first thing is the addition of the reflective panels on the front, the sides, and the back of the shoe. It sounds like this actually started back in 86 with the 995. However, I like the way that they executed the reflective details on the 990 V2. From the 997, 998, 999, you started to see a little bit more of a sculpted midsole, and that continues in the 990 V2. I like the look of the midsole as well. It gives the shoe a lot more character than what it previously had. There's also prominent ABZORB branding on the midsole of the shoe. Now, similar to the other 990 series thus far, it's a cut and sew upper. So you have suedes or leathers overlaid over top of mesh. The updates from the 990 V1 to this one has a lot more plush liner as well as a suede or leather tongue. Also, there's a lot more tongue padding on the V2. And another change from the previous version, they have some extra layers of suede underlaid over top of some of the other suedes. So it's not just mesh and leather or suede, it's actually like a third layer in between, which is something that adds a little bit more dynamic to the shoe, but it's something that we see carried on to future versions of the 99X model. No one more change on the tongue. They actually have embroidered details for the 990, New Balance made in the USA, at least on the version that I have. And on the previous version, you just had kind of like a tag on the tongue. As for sizing of the 990 V2 and the rest of these sneakers, really for me, it's true to size or half size down depending on your foot and what you prefer for comfort. I have a little bit of a wider foot. I like the extra wiggle room in my toe box. However, some people find that there's just too much room. So if you guys own any of the 990 models, leave a comment in the comment section. What is the sizing that you go with? Personally, again, I usually go true to size with everything. And if I have extra room, I have extra room and I'm okay with it. Moving on to 2012, we have the 30th birthday of the 990 series, and they released the third version, the 990 V3. And I think it's safe to say that the 990 V3 is probably everybody's favorite version of the 990. It's the one that we've seen most collaborations on as well, Joe Freshgoods and so on. It is one of the best looking New Balance models, I think, in this modern day and age. And again, this one released in 2012. You can definitely see the steady progression between all of the 3 models that they've released thus far with the 990 V1, 2, and 3. It's definitely a more sleek version, a more mesh version as well. They have more mesh panels on the V3 than they had on the V1 and 2, making it kind of more of a lifestyle focused pair of sneakers, which is funny because you look at all of these sneakers and we think automatically lifestyle, but from the inception of the New Balance 990, it was actually performance driven. So similar to the way the Air Jordans have kind of matured, those were performance sneakers with the Air Jordan 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are now lifestyle sneakers similar to the 990s. The third version features endurance rubber on the outsole as well as ENCAP in the midsole. And I'm not sure if this is true to the originals, but the midsole outsole has carbon fiber actually in the plate. So that's a nice premium addition as well. For the tongue, you have the New Balance logo that's kind of a fused overlay and then has a little bit of a waffle pattern on the padded tongue. So it's actually kind of a mesh tongue instead of leather, at least on the colorway that I have. Now, one of the biggest changes between the V2 and the V3 is the ENCAP midsole versus the ABZORB from the V2. So I'm not exactly sure why they changed it from ABZORB to ENCAP. It seems like some of the other models that New Balance released before the V3 actually featured different variations of ENCAP. So the difference between ABZORB and ENCAP from what I found is ABZORB was supposed to be more of a superior blend of foam cushioning and compression set featuring a bit of rubber. ENCAP is a core of soft cushioning of EVA in the midsole with a tough polyurethane rim for more support and durability. Leave a comment in the comment section if you have a preference between ABZORB or ENCAP, but honestly I feel like ENCAP is the one that they've been going forward with. That's what we've seen on the next couple versions that I'll get into. Now, as I mentioned, the V3 had the most panels on the upper. The tongue changed a little bit as well. They definitely have less suede on the V3 than they did on the previous versions, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because of the way that they integrated all the mesh panels. It looks really cool as well. I like that there's a bunch of circular cutouts between the suede and the leather where you have that mesh kind of shining through. Again, I feel like this is one of the best looking New Balance models to date, and I really appreciate what they did with the V3. I never had the originals back in the day, but now 12 years later after the original release, we have tons of different retros that are coming out, and they have a lot of new breath because of all of the different collaborations that we've seen and that we'll probably continue to see in the future. So fast forward to 4 years in the future, 2016, you have the release of the 990 V4. It was definitely good timing to release this because of the dad shoe trends that were going crazy. The V4 featured the ENCAP midsole with a polyurethane ring with an EVA core, which helped provide a little bit of balance between cushioning and stability. The midsole sculpting with the ENCAP looks very similar to the previous version, but it doesn't have the carbon fiber in the outsole. I think out of the 6 signatured models of the 990, the V3 and the V4 are the ones that look the most similar. For the V4, at least the version that I have, you have the prominent Made in the USA branding on the tongue that is stitched on. They also switched it up with the suede tongue, and the New Balance logo looks a little bit bigger. The toe down look between the 3 and the 4 looks very similar as well, but you do have a little bit more mesh cutouts on the V3 than the V4. The overall shape between the two models, though, again, look very, very similar. And again, sizing on the V3, V4, I would say true to size or half size down, depending on your comfort or the width of your foot. Again, wide foot gang over here, so I go true to size. Now in 2019, they actually released the 990 V5, which looked a lot different than the previous version of the 990 V4. The major difference you could tell from the V5, you could see the TPU power strap that wraps along the upper, and that's definitely something that stands out for better or for worse. I don't know if people loved the look of it back then, but similar to the previous versions, you do have reflective details in the front, sides, and the back of the shoe. The V5 also features the ENCAP midsole with endurance rubber outsole. On the heel of the shoe, you actually have a V for the 5th version. The V5 retailed at $185. Again, fit true to size or half size down depending on your foot. I don't recall seeing any collaborations of the V5s thus far, but this is probably a model that we'll see in the future come back in some sort of a retro form. So in 2022, New Balance actually released the 6th version of the New Balance 990, and the retail was at $200. Again, you have the reflective details in the front, sides, and the back of the shoe. You have a pretty large reflective end on the side panels of the shoe this time around, and then there seems to be a lot more mesh than on the V5. Also, this is the first time that the New Balance logo on the side panels don't sit on a suede panel, it actually sits on mesh. The overall shape of the 990 V6 is definitely the most modernized look of the 990 series that we've seen so far. It's definitely chunkier and bigger than what we've seen in the past. Not only the shape of the midsole has been changed, it does feature ENCAP along with fuel cell, but the combination of ENCAP and fuel cell is nice with some support as well as some extra added comfort. And I like that they've been adapting to more modern times with the fuel cell line and the running line just being amazing. It's nice to see them integrate this into the lifestyle segment. Now, after this model came out in 2023, we have the 991 V2, and I did a video on those on my channel as well as a comparison between the 990 V6. If you guys want to go check that video out, feel free to do so. Again, if you guys want to see more of a complete timeline to cover some of the items that I missed, like the 995, 6, 7, 8, 9, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know. I'd love to do that if you guys are interested. Leave a comment in the comment section. What do you guys think about the 990 lineage so far? The 990 V6 being the latest and greatest. Maybe we'll see a 990 V7 in 2025 or so. Exciting to see the future, what New Balance creates. And it's honestly really rad that they can create new models in a more modern age. Something that Jordan Brand has a hard time with. They have retros that definitely do very, very well. People love the Air Jordans 1, 3, 4, 5s, etc. However, when they create new models, they're all performance based and they don't have that luster of the cut and sew era that New Balance can now bring forward with us with the 990 lineage that they've had. So honestly, it's been awesome to see the evolution of the 99X line, and I can't wait to just see what New Balance brings us in the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Again, if you guys did like the video, or if you have other things you guys want to add in the comment section, feel free to do so. Hopefully you have a good rest of the day, and hopefully we'll see you back for some more content soon. All right, peace guys.